My wife, Lucy, told me she had an affair with the best man at her sister's wedding. It's important to mention the timeline here. We've been married for 3 years, and were together as a couple for 2 years before that. So we've been together for about 5 years. 2 weekends ago, Lucy's sister got married, and Lucy was part of the wedding party. Naturally, she spent the 2 weeks before the wedding helping her sister get everything ready. This was no surprise to me, and she kept me informed about it all. She took Wednesday to Friday off from work to assist her sister, and even stayed with her for 3 days. I know her sister well, but I hardly know the guy who is now my brother-in-law. I've only met him a few times, but he seems nice enough. I showed up on Saturday morning, a few hours before the ceremony, hoping to steal a few minutes with her since I hadn't seen her since Tuesday. When I got to her parents' house, she sent her brother out to tell me she'd come out to see me at the car, which I thought was odd but didn't think much of it. She finally came out, sat next to me, and kissed me. Instead of acting happy to see me, she said she needed to talk and didn't want it to ruin her sister's day. She told me that if I still wanted to go to the reception, I might hear some things about the best man and her, and she didn't want it to be awkward or weird. I just sat there, stunned. She said that about 4 years ago she had a fling with him and that it didn't mean anything. She knew I was somewhat jealous by nature and wanted to tell me in advance so I wouldn't be surprised. I appreciated her honesty but was shocked. She went back inside, and I went to eat lunch. As I sat there, it dawned on me that she said the fling happened 4 years ago, but we've been together for 5 years. My first reaction was to brush it off, thinking she just got the timing wrong. But then I remembered that about 1.5 years into our relationship, she had a phase where her behavior was sketchy. She wasn't available when she usually was, and went on 2 weekend camping trips with friends from work. I was knotted up over this, but knew I had a long day ahead. At the wedding, I watched everything unfold. After the ceremony, there was a line to congratulate the bride and groom, and the wedding party stood in line as well. Lucy was standing with some guy I didn't know, but the best man was there too. I went down the line, acting like it was no big deal. At the reception, it took forever for them to arrive because of photos. When she finally sat with me, I decided not to say anything, not wanting to ruin the day. But instead of letting it go, she told me each groomsman and bridesmaid would dance, and she'd be dancing with the best man. I asked why, since she wasn't his partner for the party, and she said the maid of honor and her partner were married and wanted to dance together. I was perturbed, but tried not to show it. Thankfully, I was smart enough not to drink because I know I get angry when I do. When the dance came, he extended his arm and she got up. I tried not to watch but couldn't help it. She came back with him, joking like best friends, and decided to introduce us. While I didn't tell him to F off like I wanted, my greeting wasn't cordial. He sat and talked with her for a few minutes, making me madder. Eventually, I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, he was gone. She said I was rude, and I told her we'd talk later. She went to change clothes and then said we were leaving because I ruined her day, but didn't want to ruin her sister's day too. I told her I could manage not being a bother, and we stayed. We got home, and I asked her to retell the story about the best man. She said it word for word as before. After a while, I asked if she was sure about the time frame, reminding her we'd been together for 5 years, so the fling was well into our relationship. She admitted she knew. She said they worked together, and it was just a physical thing because we weren't in a great place at the time. She never had feelings for him and didn't intend to leave me. She probably shouldn't have told me now, but didn't want me blindsided. I didn't take it as she expected. We had a big argument, ending with her calling me a child for being upset over something from before we were married. I disagreed, saying it had a bearing on us because she cheated and didn't feel guilty. 2 weeks later, I'm still not over it. She's been trying to talk, but I don't see her the same way. Part of me thinks it's stupid because it happened years ago, and we're married now without problems. But another part of me is hurt, feeling like she cheated and doesn't understand my feelings, trying to guilt me into not thinking about it. I don't know what to do. Update. My wife, Lucy, told me she had an affair with the best man at her sister's wedding. I want to clarify something from my first post. The maid of honor, not my wife, was married to the groomsman my wife walked down the aisle with. Some thought Lucy arranged the dance, but that part was legit. However, she might have offered to let them dance or manipulated things, but I wanted to clear that up. I've received over 40 requests for an update. Unfortunately, I don't have a bold statement about standing tall and kicking her out. I'm in limbo. There have been developments, but they've only made it harder to decide. Last week I was mostly angry. As the weekend progressed, I became mostly sad. I want to hate her and feel like a sucker, but I still love her, and it's ripping me apart. Here's what's happened. Lucy realized I wasn't going to get over this and might want out of the marriage, leading to a near nervous breakdown. Someone said she'd try to manipulate me, and while I thought she was having crocodile tears, it became apparent she wasn't. She had a legitimate panic attack, leading to an ER visit, an overnight stay, new medications, and a follow-up with her doctor. Her family got involved, leading to long conversations. When we got home, her family was there. I asked what she wanted to do, and she said she wanted to be with her mom for a while. That was fine with me, as I didn't want to hang around her dad or sister all day. I went to finish something at work and got a text begging me to come home and talk. I finished up and headed home, greeted by her dad on the porch. My anger level was high, but I was ready to go to war if she dumped lies on me. He floored me with his opening. He apologized, saying he felt he'd done a poor job as a parent. He said her mindset was a creation of her mother's, and while he loved both of them, he disagreed with the value system they'd installed. He wasn't there to stand up for his daughter, but wanted me to know she honestly believed marriage was an entirely different life. He said he wasn't expecting this and wasn't standing up for her, but wanted me to know what she was thinking. We shook hands and he said he still thought highly of me. I went inside and Lucy was curled up on her mom's lap, crying. Her mom hugged me, saying she was sorry and loved me, hoping we could work it out. Lucy was laid out on the couch. Her parents left, and she sat there crying. I couldn't take it and hugged her, holding her for a long time. I know it was weak, but I loved her and didn't want to see her in pain. After she calmed down, I asked what she wanted to talk about. She wanted everything out in the open so I wouldn't feel lied to or manipulated. She wanted me to ask questions. I wish I'd written down a list, but I came up with a few. She was brutally honest, and some answers stuck in my head. She gave dates and remembered when it happened, fortunately earlier in our relationship, so we weren't engaged. This was a relief. She told me how many times it happened, which didn't help. It was only 3 days, but several times each day. Then came the hard part. Why did she do it? I couldn't ask without crying. She held me as I remembered everything, her telling me, watching them laugh, her honesty. She talked, but I have no idea what she said. Nothing would make a difference. I told her the betrayal was horrible, but her response when I found out was just as bad. She agreed and apologized for calling me immature. She thought it wouldn't matter because we were married. This made my blood boil, but she now sees this was wrong. She said cheating is cheating, but feels our happiness since being married should count for something. I felt our happiness was built on a lie, leading to another breakdown and almost another ER visit. We got her calmed down, and I let her sleep, both of us emotionally exhausted. By Sunday, we talked again. I wasn't as sympathetic and told her I thought introducing him to me was crappy. Making me watch her dance with him was extra crappy, and only telling me because she was going to get caught was an elite level of crappy. I demanded to know why she thought I'd find out and how many people at the wedding knew. Besides me, the guy knew, his best friend, my brother-in-law, and her sister, who she was afraid would tell me. I asked if she'd been with him leading up to the wedding, and she got pissy, acting like she wouldn't cheat because she was married. I lost it and left for a while, feeling like she was living in a different world. I cooled off and came home, trying to be civil. She asked what she could do to help me get past this, which was a nice gesture. I told her I wasn't sure if anything could be done and might never get over it. She wanted to help and hoped I'd judge her based on who she is now, saying she'd do anything to work this out and had been faithful since we married. I sarcastically thanked her and asked for a break from further talks until Wednesday, needing time for work and feeling exhausted. Update 2. My wife Lucy told me she had an affair with the best man at her sister's wedding. I've been overwhelmed by responses, receiving over 400 private messages. I can't respond to them all but appreciate everyone's concern. Here's an update. I asked to drop it until last night to focus on work. She kept her word but was very emotional and nervous. She's on strong medication for anxiety but was still anxious. I wasn't punishing her, but trying to give her a break. She told me last night that not holding her or showing affection was torture. We had a long talk, starting around 6 p.m. and ending around 2 a.m. We discussed many issues and what we're willing to do to move forward. I'm living with my brother for now. She's understandably upset, but I'm making an effort to communicate openly. I want to save my marriage but feel like we built it on a lie. I had to decide if I'd have stayed with her if I'd known about the affair, and each time I answered no. She took away my ability to choose, and while we've built something, the foundation needs repair. Here's a summary of our talk. I was upset about the cheating and her lack of consideration for my feelings. She apologized, admitting fault and seeing she was wrong. She felt disrespected by her associating with the guy in front of me, humiliating me by having to shake his hand. She apologized, saying she was trying to show there was nothing there. I told her she was wrong, and even her sister said it was poor to do to me. She was deeply hurt by this because it hurt me. We talked about her lack of remorse for being with someone else while we were together. She apologized, saying she used poor judgment and wished she could change the past. I felt she wasn't sorry for what she did, just sorry I didn't shrug it off. She admitted her first instinct was to be mad at me for being mad at her, but realized that was stupid. She had it beaten into her head that as my wife, I should easily forgive and forget. She panicked at the thought of losing her marriage, with nobody in her family divorced. She felt bad about bringing the guy around me, but I noticed she never said she felt guilty about being with him. Our conversation was filled with tears, curses, and pleading. We talked for 8 hours. I set out steps for reconciliation. No contact with the guy, couples therapy, and staying with my brother while we're legally married with no excuse to see anyone else. We're starting over to a point. I can't forget she chose to cheat. We're going on a date Friday night. I'm living with my brother for now, feeling some control. I held her for a long time, and we slept together. I want her to be my partner for life, but need her to care about my feelings as much as hers. Final update. I've been staying with my brother for over a month, and he's been a great help. The big news is I delivered her with divorce papers, though I don't want to go through with it. I explained everything to a lawyer and had him draw up a decree. I gave her the papers, explaining it was a standby in case she didn't think I was serious. This led to another anxiety attack and an ER visit. I stayed with her for 2 days to make sure she was okay. In counseling, I came across as a manipulative butthole. I tore up our copies of the divorce papers in front of her. She doesn't know there's a third copy, but I plan on having it discarded. I felt like a monster because the look on her face was something I never want to see again. She was so happy to see me that day, and I gave her that, causing instant sadness and terror. Other than that bump, things have been going well. I'm moving back home this weekend. My brother has been great, but I'm cramping his style. It's been fun playing Xbox every night, but I'm going home because she's done everything I asked, and I've put her through hell. She's paid a steep price, and I know she knows how serious this was. I love her, and she's made a very stupid, selfish mistake, but it was years ago. She's been almost the perfect wife since. I'm sorry to disappoint many of you, but I have to do what makes me happiest in the long run. My head says be aware, and I'm guarding my heart. But my heart is still in love with her. We're on our way to healing, and it's going to take time, patience, and understanding. Lucy's confession rocked my world. I remember the exact moment she sat down in the car, her eyes avoiding mine, her hands trembling slightly. The weight of her words hit me like a freight train. The casual way she mentioned her past fling, as if it were a minor detail, infuriated me. I kept my composure, though. Years of suppressing my emotions had taught me how to maintain a poker face, even when my heart was breaking. As I sat alone at lunch, piecing together the timeline, the betrayal sank in deeper. We were together when she had her fling. The realization brought back memories of those suspicious weekends when she was camping with friends. My mind raced, connecting dots I had ignored. The hurt and anger bubbled up, but I knew I had to get through the day. At the wedding, I plastered a smile on my face, congratulating the bride and groom, pretending everything was fine. Inside, I was seething. Watching Lucy dance with the best man, my anger turned to a simmering rage. I clenched my fists, digging my nails into my palms to stop myself from causing a scene. I couldn't let anyone see how much I was hurting. Back home, the confrontation was inevitable. I demanded answers, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and despair. Lucy's nonchalant attitude drove me over the edge. Her attempts to downplay the affair, calling it a meaningless fling, felt like salt in the wound. Our argument escalated, and I left the house needing to clear my head. Over the next few days, I barely spoke to her. The house was filled with an unbearable tension. I avoided her as much as possible, focusing on work and trying to distract myself from the pain. But every quiet moment was filled with thoughts of her betrayal. I questioned everything, our relationship, my trust in her, my own judgment. When her panic attack landed her in the ER, I felt a mix of guilt and frustration. Seeing her so vulnerable tugged at my heartstrings, but I couldn't forget the hurt she caused. Her family's involvement only complicated things further. Her dad's unexpected apology and admission about their family's flawed values gave me a lot to think about. It wasn't just about Lucy's actions, it was about the environment that shaped her beliefs. The long talks with Lucy were draining. Each conversation peeled back layers of our relationship, revealing more wounds and unresolved issues. I had to confront my own feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. Her honesty, while painful, was a step towards rebuilding trust. But the road ahead seemed impossibly long and fraught with obstacles. Living with my brother gave me the space I needed to think. It was a relief to be away from the constant reminders of Lucy's betrayal. My brother's support was invaluable, and our late-night gaming sessions provided a much-needed escape. Yet, every night, thoughts of Lucy crept in, keeping me awake with their relentless presence. Handing Lucy the divorce papers was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Her reaction shattered me. Seeing the hope drain from her eyes, replaced by fear and sadness, made me question my decision. But I needed her to understand the gravity of her actions and the impact they had on me. Our subsequent argument and her breakdown were almost too much to bear. I regretted the timing and the pain it caused, but I couldn't take it back. In therapy, we delved into the complexities of our relationship. The counselor helped us navigate our feelings, but it was a slow, arduous process. Each session was emotionally exhausting but necessary. I needed to express my anger and hurt, and Lucy needed to confront her guilt and responsibility. Moving back home was a significant step. It signaled a willingness to try, to rebuild what we had lost. Lucy's efforts to make amends didn't go unnoticed. She was trying hard, and I could see the sincerity in her actions. But trust isn't easily regained, and my heart was still guarded. Our first date after moving back was filled with mixed emotions. We laughed and enjoyed each other's company, but an undercurrent of tension remained. I was hyper-aware of every word, every gesture, analyzing them for signs of deceit. It was exhausting, but necessary for me to start trusting her again. The process of healing was slow. We had good days and bad days. Some nights we stayed up talking, sharing our hopes and fears. Other nights we slept in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. The journey was far from over, but we were making progress. Final update. It's been a few months since I moved back home. The road to recovery has been long and challenging, but we're getting there. Lucy has been consistent in her efforts to rebuild trust, and I've been working on letting go of the past. Therapy has been instrumental in our progress, helping us communicate better and understand each other's perspectives. Lucy's family has been supportive, giving us space when needed and offering help when we asked. My brother continues to be a rock, always there to listen and offer advice. Our relationship has grown stronger through this ordeal, and I'm grateful for his unwavering support. As for my brother-in-law, I've decided to let go of my anger towards him. Holding on to that resentment only added to my stress and hindered my healing. I've set boundaries to ensure we can coexist peacefully during family gatherings, and so far, it's working. Our marriage is not the same as it was before, and maybe it never will be, but in some ways it's stronger. We've faced a significant challenge and come out on the other side with a deeper understanding of each other. There are still moments of doubt and insecurity, but they're becoming less frequent. I've learned a lot about myself through this process. I've confronted my fears, insecurities, and capacity for forgiveness. It hasn't been easy, but it's been necessary. I've discovered a resilience I didn't know I had, and a capacity for love that has grown stronger through adversity. Lucy and I have made a commitment to each other to continue working on our relationship. We've set new goals and are actively working towards them. We've redefined what it means to be partners, focusing on honesty, communication, and mutual respect. To those who have followed our journey, thank you for your support and encouragement. It hasn't been easy sharing such a personal and painful experience, but the outpouring of empathy and advice has been overwhelming. For anyone going through something similar, know that healing is possible. It takes time, effort, and a lot of patience, but it can be done. In conclusion, my journey through betrayal and healing has been long and arduous. The scars will remain, but they're a testament to our resilience and commitment to each other. We're not perfect, and our marriage isn't either, but we're stronger for having faced this challenge together.